This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSPORT Fan Network. TalkSPORT. Powered by fans.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Red Side of the Trent, here to preview Forest game against Arsenal on Wednesday night as we are finally back at the City Ground. I'm your host Adam Wicklow, which I don't normally say, but I will do today. Joined by Christian Brown today. Christian, how are you, mate? Are you good?
Yeah, all good, thanks. Hope you are too.
Yeah, although I feel like I've really butchered this intro, so if you're still listening, thank you. Obviously, you didn't get to join us on the review of the Newcastle game, so we'll briefly touch on that. Obviously, a difficult result, a poor first half performance, kind of masked a little bit by the second half performance in some way, because I don't know how you felt, but I thought Newcastle really took their foot off the gas, as well as performing a little bit better, I guess, to get ourselves back into the game somewhat. But too little, too late, as the damage was done in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, it was 11 chaotic minutes, really, wasn't it? It was like a throwback to the first season in Prem, where we just, I think there was 7 times in that first season, I think it was, where we conceded like multiple goals, like a 10-minute spell. And it was nuts because I was watching the game on Now TV, because that's the sort of package I've got. And those who have Now TV will know, obviously, because it's Sky lease it out, it's not entirely in line. So I looked at my phone like after talking to you lot in the chat, actually, after the third goal, and it said like, 4-1 Isak. I thought, maybe the Premier League have got confused. That can't be right. Literally looked up and he was like, oh my god, it was bad. I mean, I don't think it was. I said after the Fulham game, I didn't think it was possible for Aina or Williams to play worse than they did that day, but they somehow managed it. Aina especially, I'd have hooked him after half an hour. That's the worst I've seen a Forest player play since promotion, and which is pretty abject, really, considering some of the things that we saw. That was on a par with Shelby at Villa. It was just completely atrocious and so unlike him from what we've seen this season. But second half was better. I think the thing I take from it most was that, yeah, you can say Newcastle got complacent at their foot off the gas, but one common sort of criticism leveled at Forest this season is that they don't know how to break teams down who sit in. And yeah, okay, Newcastle maybe weren't at full stations, but we still managed a way to get through them twice. We probably could have scored more. The Alanga one, I don't really know how he missed out. Just go with it with your head on. Yeah, that was a big chance. Murillo had his head planted wide. So on another day, we could have actually drawn that game. So it's bittersweet, really, because there's a lot to take out from it. It's good, but equally, you can't really overlook how bad that first half was, and it just feels like when we're losing games, we don't lose them by the odd goal. I know Fulham we did recently, but we generally get beat pretty badly, and that's a little bit alarming.
Yeah, because like this when Nuno first took over and we'd lose games, it would be by maybe the odd goal, maybe 2-0 here and there. It wasn't like what we're getting this season when where we're off it, where miles off it, sort of thing. Which is, yeah, I'm in agreement with you. It's alarming. I think our recent form, I think we've scored 14 goals, let in 13, which is very unlike us, really. It's especially for the first half of the season, where I think there was at one point where we'd conceded less than that 10 goals up to, I don't know, maybe 10, 12, 13 games or whatever it was. I can't remember what part of the season was, but we was like tremendous defending. It was ridiculous. So I don't know what's kind of happened. Are you concerned that it's coming to that part of the season now where we've got 12 games left and it's looking closer and closer where you can get into Europe, but everyone else around us is also in the same sort of boat where they can put maybe 2-3 results together and they're right in the mix all of a sudden? Are you getting worried that it's getting to the players at all?
Not so much, no. I mean, still, I think it's more for us to worry about as fans than for players personally. I mean, they're playing for Nottingham Forest. Ultimately, we are a big club. We've always had big expectations. It doesn't matter whether that's Championship Forest or Premier League Nottingham Forest, and we've got an owner that will remind them of that every single day they walk through the door. So, no, pressure's a privilege when it comes to playing for Nottingham Forest because you've got the opportunity to represent a big English club. So, I don't necessarily buy that logic as such, but obviously, as a fan, you look at it and it's looking tight. And I don't know, this might be a year where I think, on the contrary, where you've had like 68, 70 points to get top four, you might get a throwback to like the early 2000s, where I think Liverpool did it with 60 and Everton did it with 60 as well, I think, or around that sort of ballpark in like 04 and 05. So it might, just because all those teams are too inconsistent at the minute. Look at Fulham, for example. Fulham beat us, and everyone was like, "Oh yeah, but they'll be in European contention now." And they lose at home to Palace the week after, which is very typical Forest in its own right. Bournemouth losing at home to Wolves. No one saw that coming. That was a coupon buster at the weekends. And you've got City, who seem in transition. You've got Chelsea, who have numerous goalkeeping and managerial issues. It seems like. All those teams, like Newcastle, even before, Newcastle, they got out of jail against us, really, and they've been poor at home recently as well. They got Liverpool on Wednesday night, so it's very feasible they lose that game. It's sort of like, 2 steps forward, 4 steps back sort of thing. So all these teams are being inconsistent, and we're no different to that. But I also think that we've had a very difficult run. We all knew this would be the litmus test, this run of form. But what I didn't bank on was that the other teams around us would be so wildly inconsistent as well, because if we repeated our first half of the season, we lose all these 4 games. But the fact that we've lost 2 of them and we're still thirds suggests that that we maybe isn't as ruthless as we might get scared by. So yeah, long way to go. Yeah, we just have to see how it all pans out. It's like a championship playoff race again, isn't it? Like one of those roller coasters, but we'll have to see.
It's nice. I said this on the last pod. Obviously, it's nicer to be in this conversation than the relegation one, and having to look at like, Wolves won at the weekend, and we're like having to look at their sort of results, like Wolves, Everton, Man United into that mix. But like we're now looking. I mean, I've got a bit of a race for Europe conversation. It's 8 points between ourselves and Fulham in 10th. And these are all the fixtures in midweek, Christian. So we play Arsenal at home, but you got Brighton against Bournemouth, Palace v Villa, Wolves against Fulham, Chelsea are playing Southampton, which probably should be a 3 points for them. That is like the one banker out of this that I've put. Spurs, City, Liverpool, Newcastle. So like, if we win and results go our way again, the buffer could be there straight away, and you kind of think, well, we lost at Newcastle, which we kind of expected, but we're still 6 points. We could be still 6 points, maybe 5 or whatever it could be within the Champions League spots, and it's absolutely mental. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of twists and turns to come. But we will speak about Arsenal. Normally, we have your mate on the pod, Alex, who comes on, but with a short turnaround, we've not really been able to afford the time. But are Arsenal starting to crumble with the lack of attackers now all of a sudden? I know they beat Leicester the other week, but they scraped by them, really. And then they lost at home to West Ham, and it's not looking good for them. I feel like the title's well and truly done.
Yeah, obviously it's a small sample size, isn't it? But speaking from experience from Burnsley's perspective, he's very much focusing on the European trips now. He's booking his flights to Eindhoven and getting refundable ones to Madrid. He's looking at that rather than going to league. He's of the opinion it's done. I think he's probably right, which can kind of play into our hands a little bit, really. Because obviously, I'm not expecting Arsenal to just like sack the whole league off and just put all their eggs in European basket. But the fact that we've got something to actively play for and fight towards, and they kind of haven't, might sort of go in our favour a little bit. I don't know. Obviously, we'll have to see how it all pans out. But yeah, it's not gone well. I think questions will have to be asked at Arteta if this goes trophyless. I think that goes without saying. Their January was just bizarre. I mean, I think if you can't get a permanent transfer in for one of your targets, that's fine. That's fair enough. But as we saw with like Kolo Muani, Rashford, even Asensio, attacking players were there on hand to be loaned, especially. And Arsenal just didn't really do anything. They bid 40 million for Watkins the day before Duran was going to be sold. Like Villa were going to sell both in one window. That would be ridiculous. It just seemed more performative than anything else. And obviously we joke about Arteta's sort of like profile for a player and his obsession with jewels and this sort of thing. I just feel like that philosophy's got in the way of him actually winning a trophy this year, because they could have hunted, well, they might not have hunted Liverpool down, but they could have made it a lot tighter than it has been. I mean, we've got 12 games left, and we're basically the title's over. So it's been a bit of a strange one for them. And as you say, now we have a load of injuries. So they've got Trossard, Sterling, and Waneri, isn't it? It's a front three effectively, or Marino who plays up front. So it's not ideal for them, but ultimately they're still a very good side. They're still second in the league, and with good reason. So it's going to be a tough test for us. There's no doubt about that.
Are you quite glad the game's Wednesday night rather than like next Saturday, per se? Because I think for us personally, I think we've just come off of 2 bad results. I feel like a Wednesday night at the City Ground under the lights is kind of picture perfect for us in terms of that kind of atmosphere. We always say it's way better under the lights at the City Ground next to the Trent. Get that cold air coming through off the Trent and like whipping up that atmosphere. I don't know about you, but I absolutely love it. It's always quite good, especially like we had Liverpool not long ago on midweek, and it was electric, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that match was special at the City Ground. I think it's just pleasing that we haven't got a whole week to stew on that result. I think more than anything else, because I mean, when we lost to Bournemouth, the days ticking down to Brighton just took ages. You just wanted the next game to come round. You want the chance to amend it. The players feel the same way. It should be a special night, and I'm hopeful that we can sort of turn up and at least get something. Even a draw wouldn't be a terrible result for us, given everyone else around us would be taking like lumps out of each other, for example. So just have to see how it all transpires.
Do you expect Arsenal to still have the ball mainly? Because I don't feel like nothing's really changed other than their front three, has it? So like I still expect like Partey, Rice and Ødegaard to kind of dominate the game as such. But then is it on us to try and, I don't know, combat that with, I don't know how we're going to go about this. I'm kind of a bit lost for words of what I'm trying to say, but they're still a dangerous side, but I feel like they're less. I don't know if we're going to be a bit more complacent because they haven't got their front three, and you still need to be extremely wary of their front three, regardless of if Moreno plays centre forward or Sterling, for example, because they're all very, very talented footballers at the end of the day. But I don't know if I've got this air of like confidence because I haven't got Saka, Martinelli, and Havertz playing. I don't know about you.
I think unless Arsenal or United are now, you can never really discount them. They're always going to have a good team, and they've got a lot of players. Even if they can't, I mean, we talk about attacking options. We've suddenly decided out of nowhere to start looking rope at set pieces. We're playing the best set piece team in the league. So, just because their front three might not be firing, doesn't mean Gabriel won't be an absolute disaster to try and mark from a corner. So they're going to have threats in different positions regardless. I don't see this as a nailed-on Forest win, for example. It's going to be a very, very tough game and a tough ask. And people will say, their heads have gone to the title and this, that, and the other. But I don't buy into that. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. The fact that we've got something to play for could give us a slight edge, but it doesn't make them a bad team because they haven't got anything to play for. And they still want to keep us at arm's length and basically secure second anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to discount Arsenal yet. They are a very good side, and they do have it in to cut teams open if they need to as well. Ødegaard's, he's one of the best attacking midfielders in the league. He's shown that consistently time and time again. So yeah, it's not going to be an easy order. I think though that what we have seen in recent weeks is that teams have maybe become a bit more aware of how to stop Arsenal. For example, if you look at Newcastle, when this is why I've gone for the team that I did, by the way, which we'll come on to in due course, I'm sure. When you look at Newcastle in the League Cup semi-final, the one at home, more than one at the Emirates, they basically went for a 5-3-2 and just shut them out completely, suffocated all the space and just didn't let them play, and then hit them several times in a counter, and it could have been more than 2 in the end. But that's exactly what we did under Cooper in the first season up. We played when we had them at home. It was a 5-3-2. We gave them no space whatsoever to play between the lines at all. You had Saka and Odegaard running backwards, which is exactly where our goal came from, because Odegaard plays the loose ball back centre half, and Gibbs White pounce upon it. So if you can find a way to do that, then yeah, you can stop Arsenal. But it'll be interesting to see as to whether we actually can, because we've seemingly forgotten how to defend. So yeah.
I mean, I'm glad you mentioned set pieces. Actually, on my notes, where I still expect Arsenal to have plenty of the ball, but I think set pieces is a massive one. I mean, we've conceded a few recently from set pieces, which is quite worrying because we've been so good at defending them, especially with like Milenkovic organising. But it just seems like something's not gone quite right, or teams are figuring out how to combat that. And near post flick-ons is like a thing. It's like a Football Manager cheat code, that is, and it's happening in real life now, which is something that I think we need to address as such, especially with Arsenal. I feel like they'll look for that, and then you've got Gabriel and Saliba attacking the second ball, and I think that's quite key. But I'm going to put up Arsenal's team against West Ham, so I'll read it out for the audio listeners. There, David Raya in goal, Jurriën Timber at right back, Saliba, Gabriel centre half, Calafiori left back, who then got replaced by Lewis Skelly, who got rightfully sent off, in my opinion. I know Arsenal fans might disagree with that, but I think he was rightfully sent off. Odegaard, Thomas Partey, Declan Rice playing across midfield with Ethan Nwaneri, Mikel Merino, and Leandro Trossard up top. I mean, it's still a scary midfield, scary back four, Christian. I mean, like you said, it's going to be difficult, but is it limiting them space, do you think? Then that's what will win us this game, because I think with Ranieri and Trossard, I just don't think they provide the same movement or the same skill set as Saka and Martinelli do. Maybe Trossard that's pretty harsh on Trossard. I think he's actually a really good player, but Ranieri, especially because he's so inexperienced, and Saka's been there so long, Odegaard kind of knows when he's going to move, where he's going to go to, and maybe they've not quite got that with Ranieri yet.
No, I disagree entirely. Ranieri's more of a threat than Trossard is. He's basically a Saka regen. He's like he occupies the exact same space, does the exact same things, and performs the same way. I mean, I watched that Leicester game, and he was the only spark they had. He's the only one that they're not making anything happen, which of course is what Saka does more often than not. When Arsenal are like stuttering, he bails them out. It's exactly the same with Ranieri. He found a way to get him out of the game. So I'd be more concerned about him than Trossard, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Fair enough. I will put your team up actually, because we'll go with that, because it was a talking point there. So you've gone 3-4-3, and I'll read it out for audio listeners again. So you've put Sells in goal, Murillo, Milenkovic, Morato at the back, Williams, Gibbs White, Anderson, Aina across the midfield, Alanga, Wood, Hudson-Odoi. I've got some questions, just mainly to spark more debate than anything. But on the last pod, we've discussed about how last season it was the centre halves that we kept changing. This season, it seems to be midfield quite a lot because of circumstance and maybe who we're playing against. Is that a concern for you? First of all, like the whole midfield thing where we keep changing it, and also too, how come you think that we should revert back to this? I know you made a point about Newcastle against Arsenal in the League Cup.
Yeah, I just think that gives us more of a chance. I think you can make it a flat 5. You can make it a 5-4 really. Just leave Wood up there and just give them no space at all to operate in. That's the way I sort of see it, out of possession anyway. And then if you do break, you've got very quick players and very counter adept players to get you up the pitch pretty quickly and provide a shooting opportunity. Also, the reason why I've gone for that is because I just think, because of Arsenal's set pieces, we're going to do it at height in the box. Wouldn't be against Morato playing there. Although, as we saw in the Fulham game, maybe his aerial game isn't necessarily the best. But more often than not, it's felt like this season, if they're going to cross the ball to Merino, for example, I'd fancy them to just bat it away, them three. In regards to the midfield question, yes, it is a bit of a concern. It's a bit strange because it feels like we find a solution and then we have to change it for whatever reason, and then that kind of works. But now it stopped working, for example, and now we're in a position where we've got one person in the midfield, two, if it's a 4-2-3-1, who's guaranteed to play, but who's playing with him, and no one's really doing themselves any favours. So always fit to play from the start. So, you see Danilo was very poor at Fulham. I thought Dominguez was very poor yesterday, although the midfield wasn't really the reason why we lost the game at Newcastle, I'd say. It was more the fact the damage down the wings. Obviously, even Yates has been in poor form. I know he scored, but it's a weird one with Yates, actually, because I actually felt he did all right when he came on. But I looked at the stats afterwards, and I think he completed 2 out of his 8 passes and gave the ball away 3 times in his own half, which is awful for a central midfielder. But didn't really get that sort of sense of terror watching him, but the stats suggested otherwise. So who knows? But either way, it was good to see him prove a point and sort of suggest that, try and bounce back from that poor form previously. And then you've got Sangare, who I thought did pretty well when he came on again. But do you risk starting him in a game of this magnitude if you go for 4-2-3-1? So I think Nuno, I would like him to just pick someone and just stick with it and go, right, okay, this is what we're doing for 4 games. It's going to be one of you. And then the others have to give me a chance or have to show me, because you will get minutes. You have to show me when you get those minutes why you should be breaking this partnership up. Because it just feels like there's a lack of continuity there. Obviously, you've got continuity in most parts of the pitch, but central midfield is still hugely important. It's your spine of your team. So, yeah, it's a little bit of a concern. I guess the other side of the coin is that you could say it's good to have different options for different teams. And yes, that is true. For example, if we're to play, I don't know, Leicester at home, for example, let's say that's one of our fixtures coming up, you probably put Danilo in there rather than Sangare or Yates, because you're going to be the ball more, you want to try and break them down, and Danilo's passing can do that. But equally, I think it would be nice to have some continuity as well.
It's been a massive topic of debate, like who's our best midfield duo. With Anderson and Gibbs-White there that you've put in, do you think they're our best duo, or is it more what they offer in skill set in terms of they're quite similar at that they'll both battle, they're both good on the ball, they'll both like a tackle, and they can both kind of do both roles in terms of attacking and defending?
I think it's just more it's how I set up for this game. I think it's more Arsenal specific rather than the general Forest thing. Just because I feel that having those two on the pitch with a back 3 behind them, and obviously Murillo can step into midfield if needed as well in a back 3, should give us adequate protection and also give Arsenal a lot to think about if they lose the ball in our half, for example. Because if it's one of them two, like picking, say, Elanga or Hudson-Odoi out down the wing, they're going to do that. They will find those players. So it's more sort of how we can get the best out of our counter-attack while also limiting what Arsenal can do. I don't actually know what our best midfield pairing would be. If you go for a 4-2-3-1 and assume Gibbs-White's in a 10, Anderson's in the other midfield role, I don't know who you play defensive midfield. I really don't. It's a very tough one for Nuno because I haven't got a clue, and no one's really giving him sort of an indication to say, yeah, pick me, Russ, from what we've seen in recent games.
I thought if Danilo was like fully fit and he didn't have this ankle kind of psychological battle that he's got quite clearly going on, because I know people have pointed out that he's like bottled a few tackles here and there, and that's understandable because I know where he's coming from. I've had that situation myself. But like, I feel like if he was fully fit, fully head screwed on as well, like didn't have any of these problems, I feel like them 3 would really complement each other a lot. It's just depending on who would be the most disciplined. If they say, oh, they've both gone, I need to sit, and you'd want like Danilo probably to be that guy because he has played central defensive midfield a lot when he was at Palmeiras. So, but I think this kind of comes onto my team a little bit more as well, because I've changed it up ever so slightly in terms of I've put Sangare in there, but I would like Gibbs-White and Anderson to be his legs for him if he was going to operate with a 4 at the back. So I'll just read it out for listeners. I mean, I put this out last week, to be fair, against Newcastle, which was Sells in goal, Aina, Milenkovic, Murillo, Williams, Sangare holding, Gibbs-White and Anderson as 2 box-to-box midfielders, as you will, with Elanga, Wood and Hudson-Odoi up top. Would you be against this because it's Sangare and Ødegaard is probably prone to just run past him because of pure athleticism and pace, I guess? But I don't know what you think.
I mean, I feel like I'm sort of like in a very small selective Forest fans have actually ranked Sangare. I think he's a very good footballer. Yeah, I would have no. If that was a team, I'd have no issue with it. So long as obviously Gibbs White and Anderson would pull back when needed, I think I'd have no issue with that at all. Because really, you're sort of saying that Arsenal with the players with Trossard and Waneri wouldn't be able to exploit Iron and Williams the same way that Gordon and Murphy did by pushing up high up the field. Yeah, I mean, there's certainly enough there to win the game. I think I'd be quite happy. I think, and also that was sort of changed the reflection as well, because we keep saying we don't have this number 6. We signed Sangare to be this number 6. We haven't really played him there. So yeah, I'd have no issue with that if that's the team.
Because my thing against Newcastle was you got Willock, Bruno, and Lewis Miley, and I mean, even if Joe Linton and Tonali had started, you'd have had the same issue because they like making them runs into the channels and they're comfortable there. Whereas I don't think Thomas Partey and Declan Rice are necessarily that comfortable with doing that kind of movement and getting into them areas. Maybe Rice more so than Partey, but they're more sat in front of you type midfielders, and they'll run past you in that sense rather than getting into channels and making late runs. So I think we will be posed different types of scenarios and different threats rather than what Newcastle were doing, where they were it's just constant running basically and bombardment of third man runs, which we just didn't know how to deal with against them, unfortunately. But how important is it that we get a result on Wednesday, Christian? Never mind a win.
Very, very. I mean, no one wants to lose 3 games in a row in the league. I mean, that'd be pretty disastrous, really, considering for a team chasing Champions League this season. Yeah, I think we need to get something. I think we can. I don't generally believe in the team's capabilities and performances. It's going to be a tough game, though. I think I personally think it'll be a draw from what I've seen recently. I think I wouldn't be surprised if it was a terrible 0-0 draw, if I'm being honest. But that wouldn't be the worst result in the world, assuming other results are kinder to us, which could be possible. I mean, obviously, like I say, Chelsea will probably smack Southampton. I think that's a given. Although Southampton have been a bit of a bogus side for them in recent years. Obviously, the year they went down last, they won 1-0 at Stamford Bridge in a game that cost Potter his job. That could be the same again with Maresca, who knows? Then you've got Newcastle, have got Liverpool. That's going to be hugely difficult. Spurs and Man City, again, Spurs have obviously they've beaten 4-0 this season, didn't they? So yeah, these results could play into our hands ever so slightly. And if we get a draw and these teams will lose again, it's like, oh, we've actually gained a point. So yeah, we'll have to see. It's going to be a very hard game though, but I think that we do sort of need to get a result for sure.
I've got this feeling. I said this to Leon Rees. I've just got this feeling that Tyro might have a big part to play in this game, like because he should be back. Like, but I'm surprised we didn't chuck him on at Newcastle. To be fair, like when we're chasing the game, like just to give some different problems, just be that awkward person there, just causing havoc. So yeah, and he notoriously loves playing against Gabriel and Saliba more so than Gabriel. I think he just like seems to ragdoll him every time, and it's great to watch. It's great seeing someone else panic about one of our strikers. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting game. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to being under the lights and actually getting back to the City Ground. It seems like I've not been there in a long time because I couldn't get for the Brighton game. I think the last game I went to see was Liverpool at home, so I couldn't get to the Brighton game because of work commitments and stuff. So I'm really looking forward to it. Are you making the trip from South?
I will be, yeah.
Oh, lovely! What a long day for you.
Yeah, I get back at 2, 3 in the morning. So yeah, hopefully there's something to celebrate. Yeah,
absolutely, definitely. I mean, I would love to jump into TalkSPORT and Jason Cundy's like, well, if he's not got his head in his hands after losing to Southampton at home or whatever, so it might be saying, have you seen Mikel Arteta and Ray Parlour and people like that? I don't know, just one of those. Yeah. What's your score prediction for Wednesday?
I'm going to go 0-0. I'm going to go 0-0. I think Arsenal have a very, very good defence. And I think it's about time our defence can wake up, personally, because we've stopped doing the things that were making us so effective before. We've become more open and more porous. Don't really know how that's happened. So hopefully just go back to basics. And like I said, if we draw 0-0, it's not a bad result. Doesn't do Arsenal any favours in the title race regardless, but it'd be a better point for us than it would be for them. Yeah, I go for that because I think we take a lot of confidence in that. You take a lot of confidence in the fact that we kept a clean sheet. Take a lot of confidence in the fact that we haven't lost a game. We've ended a run of defeats. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to go for 0-0.
Fair play. I mean, me recently have all said we'll win, which is so you're the negative one on the score sheet there with a draw. But no, I'll take any result at this moment in time. It's such a difficult period, especially with like City to come up after our FA Cup game against Ipswich. So yeah, tough one. But no, thank you very much for joining me, mate. I'm sure we'll be reunited for the review maybe on Thursday, and we'll see you next time. And